Hello everybody, Keith here again. Today we're going to do the third update, or the second update, the third in the series of videos of the orchids that we're watching for development in this year of 2022-23. This is the August one, so I'll have another one in November, and then the last one, which will round up for 12 months, is going to be in February 2023. Some of them have done really well, surprised me no end, and I'm really pleased. There's one that you'll see in a minute that I'm pretty much resigned to losing. But it's the only one, everything else is doing tolerably well. So let's begin. Ornithophora or Gamisa radhikams. As I understand it, it's part of the Oncidium Alliance, but it's not an Oncidium per se. It came on a piece of cork tile and didn't look very happy. When I took it off, there were two plants on there, and I put it on this cork, and it really does seem to like the cork and a bit of moss. Not a lot of moss, but it does seem to be doing okay. We've got roots like this one here that's moving out and away from the moss and up towards the cork, and there's another one in the back down here that's going into the cork, into a crevice. We've got quite a few roots. There's another one just there, and we've got quite a lot of new growth. This seems to have settled on here, and it's now going for it. What I was extremely pleased to find today when I was prepping for this video is we've got some flower spikes. There's one there. There's another one just there. And where's that third one gone? There were definitely three that I spotted earlier on. But anyway, we got flower spikes, and that's always a good sign as far as I'm concerned. I did, as you can see in a recent video, take some of the moss off from down here because these roots are not very brilliant. Put a bit of fresh moss there where there were some roots. This is not as bad as some of the others. The plant is keeping it masked more from the algae, and it seems that when you've got algae in there, you can end up with it going a bit non-absorbent and a bit flaky. So you can pour water on it, and then it seems like 5 minutes later it's dry, as if it's really not absorbing it the same. But this is doing okay. It seems to be perfectly happy on here. It gets fertilised a couple of times a week. It gets watered every day at the moment anyway, and it's ready for watering the day after. Giving the mounts and the Vanda watering every day does seem to be improving things. My Vanda's doing better than it's done in the recent past, and my two new Talumnias are both putting out new growth. So that is, as I say, Gamisa in old money, Ornithophora in new money, radhikams. Masdevallia nidifica red, and this one fell into 3 when I repotted it. So I'd actually numbered the pots to try and keep them in the same order through these different videos so we can compare it. They're doing all right. They haven't flowered this year. We've got a fair number of new growth coming. I think they've been getting too much daylight. Although they don't get a lot of direct light, they are getting probably a lot more sunshine than they ought to get because the leaves are going red. It's not so bad now. Now the day length is going back, the colour is starting to come back towards green. But that's the first of them, and they're all pretty much doing the same kind of thing. Number 2, again, plenty of new growth still coming. No sign of flowers this year, but again, reddened leaves. But it's still alive, it's still growing, and to be honest, with a lot of orchids, especially the orchid ones like these, I'll take that and then we'll seek some advice as to how to get them to flower. I'll talk to Mick, I think. And the third one, again, you know, plenty of new growths, doing okay. Hasn't flowered, whether that's got to do with it's well, there's something there that could conceivably be a new growth or a flower spike, but however. But again, it's doing okay. We've got new growth. Whether it's had too much light, I honestly don't know. But it's growing. Petalum Oxiana, by far the smallest orchid in my collection, and one which, if I'm absolutely honest, I'm not sure what it's doing at the moment. We've got now 4 fans, which I think is up on last time, but based on looking at this moss, it's got a lot of algae in it. I don't know what that means, so I think in the near future, as I did recently with the Gamisa stroke ornithophora radhikams, I will put some new moss onto it and see whether that helps, because some of the roots as it's grown this time don't seem to have thrived really in that moss, so it's time it was shifted, I think. It doesn't seem to have been in that moss all that long, but it just proves the point that you've got to treat each plant as an individual, basing it on the type of medium it's got, where it is, and so on. So that's Petalum Oxiana. It's ticking along. It's not really pulling any trees up, but it's not dying either. So that's Petalum Oxiana. Cattleya, or Rin Cattleyanthi, I think it is these days. Shing Ming Rainbow, Shing Ming Beauty Rainbow, which is a cross between Burana Beauty and Sang Wen Beauty. This has grown really well. I repotted it a few months back now. I managed to knock the second new growth off. Thankfully, this one has come on in its place from the same lead and is growing very well. This is the other one it's grown this year, which, as you can very clearly see, is taller and considerably thicker than the other ones, and best of all, we have a sheath down there. Now, so far there's nothing in it. It might come to something, of course it might come to absolutely nothing, but that is doing well. You can see roots down into the pot, new tips, all doing very, very nicely, and I'm very pleased with that. And I've got no doubt this is going to carry on and be in my collection for some considerable time to come. So that's Ristrapia Shing Ming Beauty Rainbow. This is Layer Orange Nugget Dresden. It just looks worse and worse and worse. The two new growths that it put up, the bigger of the two, the leaf that it grew and half grew, is not looking very clever. The other new growth, I got the impression it was pushing on recently. I'm not sure it is now. I've done what I can with it. I genuinely don't think this one's going to survive a lot longer. It was in a rotten condition when I got it, and really I'm fighting to do anything with it. It just is not got the strength to get itself back. So I think it won't be very much longer before this one ends up, as Roger would say, under the hedge, but in our case in the bin. So that's Layer Orange Nugget Dresden. It was a shame, that's a really pretty one if I've managed to save it. One plant at the start which I repotted, and it split into two, and I'll do the other one in a sec. This is Soto annan. It's a lovely plant. When I got it, bought it from the Orchid Society of Great Britain stand at the Chelsea Flower Show in September 2021. The flower show that was out of its normal season. It split. I repotted it because I noticed the bush snail on the surface, and when I had it out of the pot it had all the root tips. So the root system was dreadful, and they both look pretty awful. This one had two new growths, sort of half-formed pseudo-bulbs, but we've got in here a new growth. And I noticed the other day, down in there, I don't know how well you're going to see that, but down in there where my fingernail is, there's another new growth. So there's a new growth on both sides of that plant. So I'm reasonably happy. And I think that piece, with a favourable wind, might go. The other half, the old pseudo-bulb really looks horrible. It's really quite manky and shrunken. Again, it had a semi-formed pseudo-bulb, new growth, didn't really get going before the snail had the root tips. And then earlier today, as I was prepping everything for for this video and photography session, I happened to look down into one of the old sheaths, and lo and behold, there we are. We've got a new growth on this one as well, quite a nice one. So again, these are a pair of plants that appear to want to survive, and I'm going to do everything I can to try and make sure that happens, because Soto annan's lovely. If I can get it back to where it was, I don't think those new growths are going to get massive, but I'd just like to get some roots and see where we go from there. Zygo petalum crinitum. I was really hoping we might have flowered this one on this cycle, but it hasn't so far. We've got new growths which have matured, and nice pseudo bulbs have grown. We've got loads of roots. This is a root monster, which is obviously great. There is this new growth, which is smaller than the other one. I don't know at which point crinitum puts a flower spike up if it's going to, but nevertheless that is a new growth. But the new growths are, it's putting several out each cycle, and they're putting up decent sized pseudo bulbs. They're perhaps not quite as big as the biggest one, but they are decent sized ones. So it's doing pretty well in this. I'm having to be a bit cute though. It does like being in this, but this is in the Westland mix, and I can see from here it hasn't been watered for around a week, and the bottom of the pot is still clearly wet, and the roots down there are green. So it really is something of a hazard with that mix, that you've got to be extremely careful about watering it. What I might have to do is stick some air holes in the side of this pot and give it a chance to dry out a bit. But it seems, at the moment, it seems reasonably happy. Seems to be like most orchids, it doesn't like having its pseudo bulbs buried. They're growing more or less out the surface as they do, so they're doing all right. We've got lots of roots. So that's my only species, Zygo petalum crinitum. Ristrapia falconberger. Now this one lives in an old fish tank. It is currently upstairs because it's cooler. It down here gets far too warm for the likes of Ristrapias and Masdevallias. It's in an old aquarium with cling film over the top. But the difference with this one is it's one I bought to keep some shrimp in, freshwater shrimp in, and it has a little LED lamp on the top. Not terribly powerful, but it obviously suits this thing really well because it's not in direct sunlight. It basically gets very, very, very indirect daylight, but it gets 12 hours of LED light, and it's got new growth coming absolutely out of everywhere. None of my other Ristrapias is doing what this is doing. You know, we've got this one there, this one here, this one there. You know, they are just, it's coming out from the bottom, it's coming out from nodes on the stems. They're also want to do. So this to me seems to be a very, very happy plant. I'm just going to really decide what I'm going to do with all these new growths and cakeys. Okay then, that's the development orchids for this quarter. I hope you found it interesting. I am always amazed when I look back at the photographs. I mean, you see your plants every day, so it's difficult to spot changes. And then you look at it over a fixed period of time, and as you've seen in a couple of my examples, or several of my examples, I really ought to say, 3 months can be an awful long time in keeping your orchids. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.